Where are you? Where are
I'm
you
in
in Italy?
Italy. I'm in Italy. Okay, Milano. So
Milano, lovely.
yeah.
Yes, yes, perfect.
So hi, Phil. Welcome to LINEA ROCK.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Such great to have you, in our show, and I'm so excited because the new album is really great. So May 19
Thank
is
you.
coming out. Drastic Symphonies, which is Def Leppard meets the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Rock meets classic, with such a fitting title and a fitting artwork, I must say. It's a really fanciful way, to rediscover classics of, Def Leppard history. As you called it, it's a greatest hits with a plus, which I like it, and it's fantastic. So how did it came about? Was it a band idea or somebody else?
No, it wasn't a band that we didn't even know about it. Someone came to us from the record label and said, there's these two classic well, they do classic albums. They do a Queen greatest hits, the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds, and they put the orchestra on top of the recordings. And so we had to listen to those ones, and it's awesome, obviously, amazing albums. We thought, but if we're going to do it, we don't want to just do it like everyone else. We want to be involved. We want to record and work with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. So that's really what we did. And that was our thing, is to re-record some things, remix everything, and have it in context, like the current context, not something that you did years ago. So some like Too Late for Love, Joe re-recorded his vocal because as soon as we took the drums and the guitars out, his vocal was out of context. It was like, somewhere in the distance. And it was like, whoa.
Yeah, I get it.
You put the strings in, and then he had to sing, somewhere in the distance, I hear the crowd sing. So all of a sudden, you have this different kind of dynamic going on. And it's exclusive to the album that we're making. So that was a very different thing. It wasn't just re-record or recording on something that's already been done. It was re-recording and creating something brand new with using classic stuff and incorporating strings and new things as well. And then the whole thing got remixed and everything sonically. It just sounded beautiful. So I just love how it turned out.
So the whole band re-recorded some parts, some elements.
Little bits. I mean, we didn't really have to do much. It was mainly Ronan McHugh, who's our producer and our out front sound guy. He would redo it, like get different sounds, different drum sounds, different bass sounds, remix the guitars, remix the vocals, take some instruments out. And once we added all of the orchestration, which was another producer, Nick, who does that producing. So the team is very important. As soon as he started adding that, the strings, all of a sudden everything was you knew what you had to do, you knew what you had to take out, and what new things we had to add. And it wasn't much stuff at all. There was so much to work with, especially all the stuff from Hysteria. There's so many guitars on there, so you can just take some out. Like on the solo Hysteria, we took the guitars out of the solo because it's such a iconic melody. Yeah. That the strings played it, and it's like, wow, this sounds beautiful, and the guitars are just going to ruin it. So we pulled my and Steve Clark's original solo. We took it out.
And choosing the tracks was like a democratic experience. And I noticed no photograph and no Rock of Ages, which is very surprising.
No, they really didn't work. I think the thing when you add an orchestra to a rock song. And the reason we did Pour Some Sugar on Me, we did the other version, because it sounded silly when the strings were going dum dum da 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 dum. It sounded comical. So all of a sudden, it was very easy. It was very black or white. It's like, this isn't working. Next song, Photograph. That didn't work. Armageddon didn't work. Promises didn't work. Rock of Ages didn't. So all of a sudden you only had to listen to little bits. And Eric Gorfain, who's our he's our string arranger. He done stuff on the last album. He worked with me on a Tesla album, worked with Joe on Down and Outs, and he'd worked with Vivian years ago. We know him very well, and it became very obvious immediately. So it didn't even have to be democratic. Everyone was like, oh, we were on the same page, you know.
Did you have to re-listen to your own albums to pick the songs and, you know, listen back to the records with a different move, with a different perception? Is that how it happened? Because I'm sure that you're not used to, you know, re-listen to your own records. You play the songs live, of course, since years, but that's different.
No, again, it was very obvious. It was like, is this going to work with strings? And some of the songs, it was mainly with Eric, who's our string arranger. He would do a demo with keyboards, like string keyboards, and it'd come back and you'd go, the verse doesn't work with the guitars and the drums and the strings. Let's take the drums out. And we try that, and it's like, oh, okay, mate, like Animal, the song Animal. That was great. You know, took the drums and the guitars out and left with the vocal. And all of a sudden, it took on a new life. That song in particular, we'd done that once before. When we recorded it originally, Joe done the lead vocal I remember it was in Paris. He done his lead vocal in Paris with Mutt Lang. And Mutt said, you know, this vocal is better than the backing track. Let's redo the backing track, keep the vocal. So we kind of done that again. You know, we kept the vocal, kind of got rid of some of the backing track, added the strings, and then before you knew it, started adding some of the original guitars back in and drums. And that really worked. So with each song, it was like that. It wasn't difficult, and we didn't really have to listen too much. We didn't have to go in and rattle our brains. It was like really obvious straight off the bat. It was like, oh, okay, like yes or no, you know.
I like Animal a lot. I like Hysteria, of course, God's War, and Sugar is very unexpected, I must say. Which is, I heard a woman voice in it. Yes. Is that correct? Okay. Is that a duet?
Yes, it is a duet. So what happened with that? Because the original, doing the strings on the original part sounded silly. It's like, oh, we can't do this song. And then Rick Savage said, well, what about that version, the Emm Gryner? There's this female artist from Canada called Emm Gryner. And we saw this thing like 15, 20 years ago. It was her playing on a piano. She's going, put some sugar on me in the name of love. And so we're like, whoa, we loved it. And we're friends with her. We toured with her. She's worked with us on stuff before. And he said, well, why don't we do the Emm Gryner version and add strings to it? And then Joe will duet with her. So we literally did this. We phoned Emm up and we said, hey, you want to be on a Def Leppard album? We're going to do your version of our song. And she loved it. Recorded the piano again. She's a great pianist as well. And then we added the strings, and it was like, boom, easy.
Is that correct that Joe duets with himself in some songs with a young self? Is that correct?
Yeah, on Too Late for Love.
That's the only one. Oh.
Yeah, because he redone the vocal. He redone the vocal, and we kept some of the first, like I said, the very first part we had to get rid of because it was out of context. And you know, when he's singing like that with the strings, it was like, whoa. But later on in the song, when the drums come in and some of the guitars, you could keep his vocal. So he double tracked his you know, old vocal. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the only song. All right. And do you have in mind any tour with the orchestra, or maybe some special events, I don't know, at the Royal Albert Hall to promote this record?
I would love that. You know, I mean, we're busy towards the end of the year, but we're waiting for suggestions. I mean, what I would love to do is to, you know, you could go to in England, Royal Albert Hall, you could Hollywood Bowl, go to the Australia Sydney Opera House, go to Milan, use the Philharmonic Orchestra there and do a tour. I would love that. But we're waiting for someone to actually offer that to us. So, yeah, you know, wide open. So please, if you know anyone, yeah,
Okay.
make an offer, because we would love to do that.
I'll do my best, maybe to arrange
Okay.
it at La Scala Milano. That would be amazing.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah, incredible.
All right. And is there any specific, rock meets orchestra album from the past that you took as an inspiration for your own?
We always, I remember when Deep Purple was the first band I ever saw live.
Okay.
So they have a special place in my heart. It's why I play guitar, was watching Ritchie Blackmore and everything. They done an album with that. And I don't even remember what it sounds like, but the idea of it, that's where the idea come from. Then obviously Led Zeppelin did it. And then we've used strings in a lot of things. We Love and Hate Collide, and obviously on the last album, Diamond Star Halos. But over the years, we've done that. We worked with Michael Kamen, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But we Two Steps Behind, we orchestrated that, or he did. And so it always works with the right songs. And then you hear stuff like, Aerosmith doing, Don't Want to Miss a Thing. I think it was a David Campbell arrangement. Right. And we worked with David Campbell as well, who's Beck, the artist Beck, that's his dad. So we worked with him in the past, and that was, so it really works. But we've never really done a whole album. But yeah, obviously Metallica did it as well, very successfully. That was wonderful. So it's always out there. And when the idea, like I said, when the suggestion came, hey, do you want to do this? It was like, yeah, maybe so, if we can do it in the way we want to do it. So yeah, it worked out great.
Have you been at Abbey Road when the orchestra recorded the parts? We
did, and it was it was one of the highlights of our career, because when you some of the songs that I'd written myself, and then all of a sudden you're in an orchestra playing your parts, it's like, wow, it's monumental. It's kind of a huge thing. So yeah, no, we were really thrilled with that, and it goosebumps. You'd hear them playing live in a studio. It was just incredible. And Hysteria has been, one of the best records ever, not just for Def Leppard, but in general. It raised the bar a lot, especially when you're doing something special like Drastic Symphonies. Do you perceive, that the standards for Def Leppard now are very high in the expectations of the people, and maybe of your own, We learned that from Mutt Lang, our producer, because when we did Hysteria, he said, we can't do Pyromania Part 2 because every other rock band is doing that. We got to raise the bar. And he continued. I mean, we wouldn't be like we are now if it wasn't for him, because he taught us how to sing better, how to play guitar properly. All of these things we learned from him, and he would push it. His standard was a lot higher than ours. And we trusted him for it. He's like, yeah, you can't be, your best ain't good enough. It's got to be better than your best. So we've always had that kind of Mutt Lang approach to it. So even with this, it's fun and it's challenging, but it's very artistic. From if you're an artist, you want the best from yourself, and you want more than your best. So we still do that. And I think, again, with this album, it has raised the bar a little bit further. It's made it kind of, it makes it harder for us, but it's great. That's what you want. I'm sure when the Beatles did, Sgt. Pepper's, or the Beach Boys did Pet Sounds, they were going, they didn't worry about, or when the Queen did Bohemian Rhapsody, it's like, I'm sure they never thought, well, we can't play this live, but we're going to make a great recording. And that was the thing. So we worry about all the other details later on.
When I ask to musicians, which is a record that they would love to have in their repertoire, Hysteria comes a lot, especially in hard rock, because that's such a monumental record. But if you feel, you did it, so you were part of it. Is there any legendary record that is in your dreams that you would love, if you could go back in time to be involved to? Which one would you pick?
It'd be a Queen album. I think it would be, there was something, Night at the Opera that Bohemian Rhapsody was like, that's amazing. My favorite Queen album is the one before that, Sheer Heart Attack, because there was still a lot of rock, but you could tell where it was going.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I heard Bohemian Rhapsody, I was in London. I had a motorcycle and I got a puncture, and I'd broken down. It was pissing down with rain, and someone come to get me in a van, and this thing was on the radio, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. So that would have been really special. I think there's a few other albums, like the Sex Pistols, Never Mind the Bollocks, which was recorded in the same studio as they did We Will Rock You at the same time. There was something very special about that. Back in Black is another one. There's some energy that's beyond the artist. It's almost like supernatural energy going in there. But yeah, the biggest one would be Queen for me. It would be Night at the Opera.
You joined Def Leppard in 1982, which means 6 years after the band formed. A lot already happened in those 6 years. In hindsight, so looking back, have you been involved, full immersion with Def Leppard since day one, or your commitment, to the band evolved a lot through the years?
I think it's day one. I mean, it was already when I joined the band, I added vocals that they didn't really have. I have like a testosterone voice that's like shouty, really loud and rock. So all of a sudden you could hear that in the records. Even on Rock of Ages and stuff like that. When I joined, Mutt Lange got me singing, and the guitar playing was a bit different. And then the first time I got to write songs was really for the Hysteria album. So again, it was a different format. So straight away, it kind of they allowed me in, and also inspired me to write songs, become a songwriter. Again, like Mutt Lange, he's so inspirational, and we still, he doesn't get enough credit for what he does, because it's not just the songs and the sounds, it's the inspiration. So I was really pleased that everyone in the band kind of was part of that thing. They would push me and make me more involved, and that made me more involved anyway. And like I said, that inspiration was amazing. So we grew straight away as a band, and then the sound changed, and I think in a positive way, obviously, because it was Hysteria. So yeah, so that's what happens when it's a team and everyone's working together. And that's really what happened, yeah.
But when you joined, Def Leppard had already a very strong sound and very personal, and the band was already considered one of the main acts of the new wave of British heavy metal. That made it easier for you to fit in, having already such a strong direction, or it was tough?
Easy. I mean, just easy, as you know. I mean, that's why I'm in the band. I joined because I was just going to help my friends with some guitar solos originally. I joined, and it was like, Stage Fright, Photograph, Rock of Ages, all the solos. And then I stayed there, and Mutt got me singing. And then he said, well, play some more guitar. And it was so much fun. And they didn't ask me to join. That was the thing. We actually we ended up going on tour, and then we never stopped touring, and it's 41 years later. So it was very natural, you know what I mean? It was so it wasn't hard at all. It was just a natural progression. And I think even when I joined, the band's sound was evolving. It still hadn't reached that typical sound. I think High and Dry, it sounds like Def Leppard, but it wasn't until Pyromania and Hysteria that you had that classic Def Leppard sound. So it kind of, and it's still evolving now. We got this Drastic Symphonies, sounds different.
Sure.
Yeah, again,
And compared to your early days, how is it nowadays to build a career? I mean, from such an experienced and undeniable rock star as you are for young bands, is it very, very different than it was?
It is. I mean, we have different formats. You know, you don't really have, you have vinyl, but we have streaming. You know, it went vinyl, cassette, CD, download, streaming. And if someone had said streaming back then, we didn't even have a cell phone, let alone anything else. So it's really evolved, and it's obviously harder, but it's because there's so many artists, so many bands, so many musicians. But the same thing really remains. It's really hard work. That's what you have to do. That's something we always did. We worked really hard and constantly. And I do meet a lot of people that are not prepared to do that. Yeah. And our band is different. We rehearse whenever we have to. We do everything that it takes. You know, I always mention lately band, you know, like Ed Sheeran, right? When he first started, I saw him being interviewed talking about guitar looping, and he would play in a subway. He'd say, you know, in the metro, he'd be playing open mic. He'd be playing in Camden Lock, playing acoustic thing, songs all day long. He'd be doing 4 or 5 things in a day. And that's what you have to do. And he's so successful, and he's obviously really talented and writes songs and that people like, but there's more to it than that. He's so hard working, and that started paying off, and that's what you have to do. That would be my tip for any new band starting off. Again, I like the Arctic Monkeys story. You know, they were playing one little bar, and then they'd have 10 people, then it'd be 15, and it'd be 20, and then they'd play another club. And this was all in Yorkshire. They would do all this stuff until it built up. They would work hard, and until it started coming to them. That's what you have to do. And that's the thing that I see so many people who will not do. And sure. And that's the thing. When you talk about the Beatles, you know, they were playing in Hamburg. They were playing 2-3 shows a day. Bob Dylan in New York. Oh, these people, you know, learn 17 verses of a Woody Guthrie song and then go and play in the afternoon, opening up for it, you know, the freezing cold in a club, and then play at night. All of these things, that's what you have to do. So those people I just met, you know, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, us, you know, Ed Sheeran, Arctic Monkeys, they all have that thing in common, and it's drive and hard work. And if you're talented, that even better.
All right. And about working hard, Def Leppard already did it a lot of times. And about, you know, special releases like Drastic Symphonies there has been, you know, a lot of remasters, compilation box sets of Def Leppard in the last few years. How far it goes, you know, the band's participation in details in these projects, or it's really a teamwork, as you know, you said for Drastic Symphonies, which has been a huge teamwork.
Yeah, it depends on the album, you know, and some people take if they've got more passion, and we're lucky that we're a band. You know, it's not like, say, Sting or Prince. You know, it's a few people, the collective, yeah. And our management, you know, it's a real team. You know, it's like even down to, you know, this past few years, you know, we've had a stylist, Mariam Malakapour, and she makes us look different, and that's really important. So it depends what it is. Like a lot of the box sets, Joe really gets involved because he's very much he collects things. He knows all the. So it's obvious that he works with Steve Hammonds from the record label, and he goes, "Well, I found these old recordings and and this works really well. What do you think?" So each different thing, someone else takes the lead, and everyone supports them. And I think that's great to be in a band that's like that. That's a dream come true, you know. So it is a team effort, but again, it goes back to that thing, really hard work, and then. When someone, you know, mentions, "Oh, what about we're going to do a box set with these different albums, but can we find up some old material, remixes or live tracks or something?" Joe's the first one that goes in there and says, "Well, we got this recording from 1979," you know, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And lots of bands, you know, from the 80s changed lineups. Right. Motley Crue just changed, you know, Mick Mars and John Five stepped in. But Def Leppard did not. Through it all, and after big success, you stick to the same lineup pretty much through your whole history. What's the secret, of your winning harmony? And, is it learning also to deal with your differences? Do you ever fight? Because you seem such a wonderful family.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Fight. Absolutely. But we all have the same goal. And we have a democratic process. It's like if someone really doesn't want to do something, for whatever reason, we won't do it. But if 3 people go, yeah, we want to do this, then unfortunately the other 2, it's democratic. So, but for most of the time, we all agree on the same thing because the goal is the same. So there is that. I think the thing with Motley Crue, Mick Mars was really in pain. We done the American tour with him, and he has physical issues. So it was great that John 5 come out, and John 5 is just a wonderful human being and plays great and everything, so it fits in. And he really helped the band out because Mick couldn't really do that, and traveling is the problem. He was having trouble. It just was painful. So no, it worked out great. I say. But with us, we're inspired. We really have faith in what we do. We believe in what we do, and we all do. So it makes that easier moving forward,
And about the stadium tour, in America, you switched with Motley Crue, the headlining spot. It's been a co-headlining tour. Is it so easy as it seems, the fact that one band plays, last one night, the other one, the other night? And do you actually care who plays last? When rivalry become camaraderie and so on.
So this is a really funny thing that you mentioned, because we just in South America, we just played a whole South American tour as well. Yeah. And we were going, wow, the band who goes on first gets to go to bed earlier. It's easier. So we were actually going, we should toss a coin who goes on first. And that's the best place. I think it doesn't matter anymore, because it's the same thing. It's the show. And I think one of the best shows we've ever done in our life was last year when we played LA at the SoFi Stadium. Right. And we went on early. We actually went on first that night, but it didn't make a difference. It was like, people are less tired. We had 5 bands on as well. That was it, Joan Jett and Poison and everything. So for us, it's sometimes easier going on earlier, for sure. But it doesn't really matter. You can still, like I said, I think it's our best show we've ever done. Everything was the playing, the singing, the audience was amazing. And like I said, that was one of the best shows ever. And we went on first. So no, it doesn't matter in a nutshell.
So the European leg is coming of the stadium tour, and you're coming to Milan as well, June 20. Do you have anything special in mind for the European leg that you can anticipate to us?
Yeah, and it's been getting better all the time. Like we just played, we finished the tour and then we played a smaller place in Miami, and after playing Buenos Aires was the last show in South America, and we'd got to a level where it was like, whoa, this is great. Changed some of the songs a little bit, but it was so perfect that we want to share that version when we get there. It just keeps getting better. So when we get to Europe, it's going to be the best version of Def Leppard you've ever seen.
And I notice you like also to change set list pretty much very often. Is it a challenge for you to do so? Do you do it for yourself to keep it fresh, or to please the fans mostly?
Both. You have to please both. And there's a couple of songs a couple of people didn't want to do, and we're like, well, we have to do this song. It's like, no doubt about it. It's one of our bigger hits or whatever. The best thing would be to play your latest album all the way through. But that's not realistic. You've got to play Pour Some Sugar On Me. You got to play Let's Get Rocked, Hysteria, Photograph. You got to do these songs. So making it work within a show. You know, you have to play them, and you have to interject some new stuff as well. And it's getting so, you can't even tell the difference between like playing when we play kick or this guitar. When we first started it on tour, it was like, it was a slow, quiet reaction. But the more we've gone on, the better it's become. So yeah, it's perfect. So you're going to see the best version of us.
Let's Get Rock is another song that I expected to be in the track list of Drastic Symphonies, but it's not there. So it's another one that didn't, fit the orchestra arrangement.
We couldn't really imagine that one. We actually didn't try that one, in all fairness. With the other ones we tried, like the Rock of Ages one we tried, and it's like, no, that's not going to work. So, if this is successful, maybe we'll do a Drastic too.
Okay, that's a good one. All right. Yeah. Is there any classic song that still gives you chills while you play live?
All of them, really. I mean, Hysteria, for whatever reason, always does that. I mean, it's because it's significant and it represents so much. It represents Rick, the accident, coming back. It features Steve. It's Hysteria. It's Mutt Lange. It's our biggest album, and so on many different levels. And it's such a great, wonderful groove to play. So that one, whenever we play that, as a magical thing to it,
That's an immortal song. Forever, it's you can hear it like 100 times and it's still very emotional. Great song. After Bohemian Rhapsody success, rock biopics are now a new trend. But the movie Hysteria, the Def Leppard story, goes back to 2001. You've been first also on that topic. It was produced by Madonna, if I'm correct. And was the band ever involved in the making of that biopic? And do you have another one maybe in the can?
We're talking about it. So we'll see there. But the one that came out, do you mean the one that was on VH1?
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
I have the DVD actually.
Right. Yeah, it was, it was a lower budget. It was a TV hour. So that's only 50 minutes, 45, 50 minutes. And I think you need more for a real story. So it would be good to do something, a bit more kind of significant at some point.
Okay, very last thing, or they're gonna kill me. I have a funny curiosity. This goes back at the Pyromania Hysteria tours. Is it fact or fiction, the story about, womanizer, tournament, game within the band, that you compiled like a sort of scoreboard and that you feel actually won as the most wanted ladies man on the tour?
Wow, that's news to me. I'd have liked that. You have to get me some more info on that.
It's okay. It's fiction. Okay. So
or perhaps it's not, or perhaps they didn't tell us. Perhaps perhaps someone like did a poll but didn't tell the band. Or perhaps the other band members done it and didn't tell me.
Okay. Okay, so thanks so much for your time, Phil. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. I can't wait to see you back on stage. I'll see you at Sweden Rock and in Milan. I'll be there screaming for Def Leppard.
My little boy will be there in Milan. He actually came there. My wife, Helen and Jackson, they came last year. He was only like 1 year old. But so now he's gonna come to Milan and actually kind of experience it more. So that'll be great.
I'll search for him. Okay.
You can't miss him. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You
Ciao.
too. Thank you.
Grazie.
Ciao. See you later. Good
ciao.